Day 13, COVID-19, lockdown South Africa. 8th of April 2020. We're actually just over the halfway mark of the lockdown, and if this is going to continue beyond 21 days, that's left for our president to decide. And as it stands, we really cannot even anticipate what the decision is going to be. So the book I've chosen today is Chinua Achebe. I read this book in 1977, my first year at university. And this was actually one of the books, that was the height of political unrest, etc. So the theme behind this book at that point in time was interpreted quite differently by me as a young university student. However, now, looking at it with COVID-19, it reminds me so much about upward mobility and how it can take a knock when you least expect it. Now, in jobs, one expects to move up the ladder, especially if you've been working very hard. Also, besides in jobs, in your businesses, if you've kept on putting in the best that you can. Everybody wants upward mobility, but with upward mobility also comes ego. And your ego takes a knock when things change. Now, post-COVID, things are going to change. Like it or not, it is inevitable that the economy will change. And this is going to be an international phenomena, not just South Africa on its own. So how do you deal with this? One of the ways is to get to grips with it. The other is to allow to damage yourself to such an extent that you start doing drastic things. This is a tragedy, and later on, as I'm discussing this in the next few minutes, I'm going to bring up what he did in the end and how he couldn't face his problems. But before that, let's look at an article from Forbes magazine, and this article from Forbes is written by Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson is a professor, author of 40 nonfiction books, and he's basically very, very respected in his field. He deals a lot with themes of resilience in work and life balance, and he's lectured throughout the world on this topic. So this is really somebody who knows what he's talking about. His article has a beautiful title. It's referred to as The Psychology of Uncertainty and How to Cope with COVID-19 Anxiety. It's not a psychological article in any way. It's more dealing with business and the reality and how it affects how you would react to it. So research has shown that chronic TV watchers and news followers are getting so involved that they're reacting to the incidents as if it's happening right outside your door. That's actually a disaster. Now, to minimize this virus is also not good preparation for post-COVID. But neither is an overkill or overblown coverage or overblown reactions. It's going to take you nowhere. It's easy to freak out when you see these drastic changes and face uncertainty. But the key is to remain level-headed, sensible, and avoid stressing out. Again, I say, like I've done in my other videos, easier said than done. If your brain doesn't know what's around the corner, then how are you going to prepare for it? We don't know what's around the corner with post-COVID-19. So how do we prepare for that? It's for this reason that one jumps to conclusions, and one jumps to the wrong conclusions. Anxiety and these threats, often uncertain future, lead you to jump to these conclusions. Unfortunately, we are hardwired to overestimate threats. That's the human brain. And we underestimate our ability to handle it. So we do this all in the name of survival. We think the worst is going to happen, and then we get into it. We have this aha moment of, yes, we can do it. That's one of the things that he emphasizes. Now, he stated that scientists have found that job uncertainty, for example, takes a greater toll on your health than actually losing the job. That's a pretty sad reality, because that build up to it, that's a time you need courage to lose that job. But it affects you so bad mentally that when you finally lose that job, it's like, okay, so this is what happened. But you were so wound up before that, that whatever you experienced leading up to that job loss was far worse than losing the job. Now, your mindset during a crisis is everything, and your perspective is the most powerful thing that you can control in a situation that is beyond your control. These disruptions are scary, I agree they are, but fear, panic, and worry are not the way to prepare for them. So you say, okay, fine, here she's saying these are not the ways to prepare. So how can we prepare? I'll come to that in a few minutes. By encouraging these emotions in you, you're actually allowing yourself to have more damage. You're adding insult to injury. As I said in one of my previous videos, you're adding layers and layers upon stress. Try to refrain from that. You can actually compromise your immune system by doing that. You work yourself up to such an extent that your body suffers physically. Paradoxically, it makes us even more vulnerable to the virus. So working ourselves up and pushing ourselves to that level, we're weakening ourselves in another way. So how do you prepare yourself? One of the ways is to evaluate your current situation. What have you survived without doing during this time? If you have survived without doing quite a number of things, now evaluate the cost factor of those things. And when I talk about cost factor, I talk about financial cost. How much have you managed not to use? I can't say saved because that's assuming that everybody is saving that money. But how much have you managed not to use in this time? The other thing you can look at is the money that you've managed not to use. In the event your income is going to be reduced, how would you possibly rechannel this money? As parents, or in fact any supporter of a home, I think one needs to inform the dependents of possible setbacks. And if possible, if you have that kind of relationship in your home, discuss ways on how to handle this in a way that makes priorities to be attended first. Without being judgmental here, if you can do away with a certain account that deals with clothes, and you look at the amount of money you're spending in a month, perhaps support the small business, which is more a cash business, and buy only that which you need. In doing that, you're not only being very cautious on your own spending, but you're also helping the small business to build himself up after COVID-19. Try working with the cash flow. You suddenly realize how, if it's cash flow you're working with, you've been spending unnecessarily. In all of this, things are going to be different, very different. Ask yourself now, is it the virus that is scaring you? Or are you scared of the drastic changes that you're going to have to make? These are uncontrollable, and the uncertainty will be scaring you. I'd like to leave you with the thought of uncertainty and how uncertainty led to new places being discovered. Let's look at Christopher Columbus, born in 1451. He was credited, or oftentimes recently cursed, for opening up the Americas to European colonization. And in his words, you can never cross the ocean until you have courage to lose sight of the shore. We need to build courage to lose sight of that which we have and try to cross this ocean of uncertainty into that which awaits us post-COVID-19. Until we meet again, may God forever hold you in the palm of his hand.